The rain had been falling since early morning, soft but steady, painting the windows in glistening streaks. Emma stood in the kitchen, stirring soup on the stove, while the sound of the grandfather clock filled the quiet house. Her husband, Mark, had texted earlier, saying his colleague was coming by after work to discuss a project. She didn't think much of it. Mark often brought co-workers home for quick chats or dinners. But tonight felt different. The sky was darker than usual, the air heavier, and when the knock finally came at the door, something in her chest tightened for reasons she couldn't name. If you're enjoying this story so far, please like the video and subscribe for more heartfelt tales. Emma opened the door to find a tall man standing on the porch, rain dripping from his dark coat. He had kind eyes but carried a weary expression, the sort that hinted at stories untold. "Hi, you must be Daniel," she said, offering a polite smile. "Yes," he replied softly. "Sorry for dropping by late. Mark said it'd be okay." She nodded and stepped aside to let him in. The warmth of the house seemed to ease him a bit, but Emma noticed how his hands trembled slightly as he unbuttoned his coat. His gaze drifted around the living room, lingering on family photos and small details like the candle burning on the side table. Mark arrived a few minutes later, shaking off his umbrella. The two men greeted each other with a friendly handshake, but Emma caught something unusual in the exchange. Daniel's eyes didn't quite meet Mark's. Dinner was quiet at first. They spoke about work, deadlines, and the new project Mark was leading. Daniel complimented the meal, thanking Emma with a soft smile. But his voice cracked once or twice and he seemed distracted, lost somewhere in thought. "So," Mark said, breaking the silence, "how's everything on your end? You seemed a little off this week." Daniel looked up, startled by the question. His fork paused midair. "It's been a tough few days," he said finally. "There's something I've been needing to tell you." Emma glanced at Mark, sensing tension. Mark leaned back in his chair, concern flickering across his face. "Anything serious?" he asked. Daniel hesitated. "I didn't know how to say this, Mark, but it's about the project, and about something I found out that affects you personally." The air in the room seemed to thicken. Emma's heart skipped. "Affects him personally? What do you mean?" she asked gently. Daniel sighed and looked down. "It's not my place, but I couldn't keep quiet anymore." "I didn't come here just for work tonight," Mark frowned. "Daniel, you're starting to worry me." Before Daniel could answer, the lights flickered from the storm outside. The sudden darkness cast their faces in the glow of the flickering candles, and the tension only deepened. When the power came back, Daniel's eyes were glassy, and his hands were clenched. "Mark, there's something you need to know about someone close to you," he said quietly. "And it's something that might change how you see everything." Emma froze. She felt a chill crawl up her spine as Mark stared across the table, silent. "Daniel," Mark said slowly, "what are you talking about?" Daniel exhaled and looked at Emma before answering. His gaze held both sorrow and hesitation, like someone burdened with a truth too heavy to carry. "I didn't want to do this here," he whispered, "but I think you both deserve to know." The room fell silent except for the soft patter of rain. Emma could hear her own heartbeat as Daniel's words hovered in the air, unspoken but close. Whatever he was about to say, Emma knew it wasn't small. It was something that would change their evening, maybe even their lives. And when he finally lifted his eyes to meet theirs, there was something unmistakably broken in his expression. The tension in the room was so thick it felt like even the rain outside had quieted to listen. Emma's hands trembled slightly as she folded her napkin. Mark sat frozen, eyes fixed on Daniel. "Daniel," Mark said again, voice tight. "What do you mean? What is this about?" Daniel swallowed hard. "It's about your firm's merger deal, and about someone involved in it." "Someone who's been keeping secrets from you?" Mark frowned. "You're talking about the investor from Toronto?" Daniel nodded slowly. "Yes, but that's only part of it." He took a breath as if trying to steady himself. "I found out something during the audit process. Documents that weren't supposed to exist. I didn't want to believe it, but it connects to someone close to you." Emma felt the air leave her lungs. Close to him? You mean someone at work? Daniel hesitated, then looked directly at Mark. No, Emma, it's closer than that. Mark's expression darkened. What are you saying? Daniel's voice dropped to a near whisper. I think someone used your name to approve the financial documents. Someone pretending to be you. For a moment, no one spoke. Even the clock in the hallway seemed to pause. Mark blinked, stunned. That's impossible. Daniel shook his head. It isn't. The signatures matched yours perfectly. But the timing doesn't. You were in Chicago that week, weren't you? Emma's pulse raced. She remembered that trip vividly. The late-night calls, Mark's exhaustion. Yes, she said quietly. He was away. I talked to him every night. Daniel nodded. Exactly. Which means whoever signed those papers did it while you were gone. Mark's eyes narrowed. Are you accusing someone of forgery? Daniel rubbed his temples, visibly shaken. I'm not accusing anyone, Mark, but the system logs show that the files were accessed from your home network. Emma's breath caught. From our house? Daniel looked at her with sympathy. Yes. The silence that followed felt unbearable. The flickering candlelight cast uneasy shadows across the walls. Emma looked at her husband, searching his face for an explanation, but his confusion seemed genuine. I didn't sign anything, Mark said firmly. I would never risk our firm like that. I know, Daniel said softly. That's why I came. I didn't want to report it without talking to you first. Emma felt a pit form in her stomach. But if it wasn't you, who else had access? Mark looked at her, realization dawning slowly. The only people who could have used that network were you. Or, he stopped mid-sentence. His gaze drifted toward the window where the storm clouds hung low. Emma felt her chest tighten. Or who, Mark? He didn't answer right away. When he finally did, his voice was low. My brother. He stayed with us that week, remember? Emma froze. The memory hit her like a wave. The week Jason had stayed over, helping fix the shed while Mark was out of town. He'd been charming, polite, maybe too much so. Daniel's eyes widened. Jason? He's the one who sometimes visits your office, right? The one with access to your laptop? Mark nodded slowly. He borrowed it once to print something. Emma's throat went dry. Mark, you don't think... I don't know what to think, he said, his voice trembling. But if he did this, if he forged my name... Daniel looked down at his hands. That's what I was afraid of. There's more, Mark. The audit shows that whoever did this also moved company funds to an external account. I traced the recipient, and it leads to someone with your brother's initials. The color drained from Mark's face. Emma covered her mouth in shock. This can't be happening, she whispered. Jason wouldn't do something like that. Mark stood abruptly, his chair scraping the floor. I need to call him. Daniel reached out quickly. Mark, wait. Don't call him yet. If this is real, the authorities might already be involved. I wanted to warn you first. Off the record. Emma's heart pounded in her chest. You mean he could already be under investigation? Daniel nodded grimly. Or worse, the company might suspect you. Mark ran a hand through his hair, pacing the room. This could destroy everything, Daniel. My career, our home. Emma stood and placed a hand on his arm. We'll get through this, she whispered. We just need to stay calm. But Daniel's expression said otherwise. There's something else, he said quietly. When I checked the metadata on the documents, there was a note attached. A message left behind, Emma frowned. A message? Daniel nodded. It said, I had no choice. The words hung in the air like a storm that refused to pass. Emma looked at Mark. What does that mean? Mark's voice was barely a whisper. I don't know. But if Jason did this, there must be a reason. Daniel gathered his things slowly. I can buy you a little time before the higher-ups dig deeper. But not much. Think carefully about what to do next. He put on his coat and headed for the door, pausing before stepping out into the rain. I'm sorry, Mark, I really am. When the door closed, Emma and Mark stood in silence. The storm outside had grown louder, echoing the turmoil in their hearts. Emma turned to him. Mark, what are we going to do? He didn't answer right away. Instead, he stared at the framed photo of him and Jason on the mantel, two brothers smiling, arms around each other. Finally, he whispered, "I think I know where he might be." The next morning dawned gray and heavy. Emma hadn't slept. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Daniel's face. The pity. The warning. Mark sat at the kitchen table, his coffee untouched, his eyes distant. He looked years older than he had the night before. "Where do you think he is?" Emma asked quietly. Mark exhaled. "Jason's been staying in a rental outside town. He mentioned it a few months ago when things got tense between us." Emma hesitated. "Do you really think he could have forged your name?" Mark's jaw tightened. "If he was desperate enough, maybe." They drove through the misty back roads that morning, neither speaking much. The world outside felt washed out and distant, like even nature held its breath. When they reached the small cabin at the edge of the woods, Emma felt her stomach knot. The curtains were drawn. A truck she recognized, Jason's, sat out front. Mark parked and stepped out slowly. Emma followed, her heart pounding. He knocked once, no answer. He knocked again, louder. Finally, the door opened. Jason stood there, unshaven and pale, eyes rimmed red like he hadn't slept in days. "Mark," he said, voice low. "Didn't think you'd actually come." Mark's expression hardened. "We need to talk." Jason stepped aside without protest. The cabin smelled faintly of coffee and damp wood. Papers covered the small table, and a laptop sat open with spreadsheets on the screen. Emma exchanged a look with Mark. This didn't look good. Mark spoke first. "You used my name on those contracts." Jason's eyes flicked away. "I didn't mean for it to go this far." Emma felt her knees weaken. "Jason, how could you?" He looked at her, guilt carved into his face. "It wasn't supposed to be fraud. I was trying to fix something. I thought I could replace the money before anyone noticed." Mark's voice rose. "You forged my signature. You made it look like I stole from my own firm." Jason's face crumpled. "I know. I panicked. I didn't know who else to turn to." Emma took a small step closer, her voice trembling. "Why, Jason? What could be so bad that you'd risk everything?" He hesitated, then sat down heavily at the table. "You remember that business I started last year? The tech one?" Mark nodded warily. "The one that failed," Jason nodded. "It didn't just fail, it buried me. I owe over $200,000. Investors are threatening to sue. I thought if I moved funds temporarily, I could keep them quiet, pay them back, and fix it before anyone noticed." Mark shook his head in disbelief. "So you stole from me, from my company, to cover your debts?" Jason looked up, tears welling. "I didn't mean to steal. I ran out of time. And when I saw your laptop open that night, He stopped. Emma's breath caught. "That night? You mean when you stayed over?" Jason nodded slowly. "You went to bed early, Emma. Mark was out of town. I thought I could get in and out without anyone noticing. But then the audit hit sooner than I expected." Mark stared at him, silent fury in his eyes. "You destroyed my career," Jason's voice cracked. "I know. I'm sorry, Mark. I just didn't know where else to go. I've been trying to fix it. I've been in touch with Daniel." "He knows." Emma's eyes widened. "Daniel knew?" Jason nodded. "He found out before anyone else. I begged him not to say anything. But he said he couldn't cover for me anymore." Mark's expression changed, confusion mixed with hurt. "So Daniel came to warn me, not because he was protecting me, but because he was trying to protect you too." Jason buried his face in his hands. "I didn't want it to come to this. I was going to tell you myself. I just needed time." Emma felt tears sting her eyes. "You should have told us the truth from the start." Jason lifted his head, his eyes pleading. "You don't understand. I've lost everything. My job, my house. If the firm presses charges, I'll go to prison." Mark turned away, gripping the back of a chair. "You should have thought about that before using my name." For a long moment, only the rain outside filled the silence. Finally, Emma stepped forward. "There has to be something we can do. Some way to fix this before it's too late?" Jason looked hopeless. "I tried. The money's gone. I've been selling what I can, but it's not enough." Mark's shoulders slumped. Then we're all going down. Jason shook his head. No, you're not. I made sure of that. I took full responsibility in a letter I sent to the firm this morning, Emma gasped. You what? Jason nodded weakly. They'll know it was me. I didn't want you to lose your job. I just wanted to make things right before they come for me. Mark's anger softened slightly, but pain filled his eyes. Jason, that letter won't undo what you did. Jason gave a broken smile. Maybe not, but it's all I have left. He stood, walked to the window, and looked out at the rain. I didn't mean to hurt you, Mark. You were always the one who believed in me. I just lost my way. Emma felt her heart break for both of them. Two brothers bound by love, torn by betrayal. Then Jason turned around slowly, his voice quiet. There's one more thing you need to know. About Daniel, Emma froze. What about him? Jason's eyes darkened. He wasn't just doing his job. He had his own reasons for telling you last night. Mark frowned. What are you talking about? Jason hesitated. He's not as innocent as he seems. I found something in his emails. He might have been part of it too. Emma's eyes widened in shock. Part of what? Jason met her gaze. The money trail doesn't end with me. For a moment, neither Emma nor Mark moved. The only sound in the cabin was the steady beat of rain against the roof. Mark finally broke the silence. Jason, what do you mean the money trail doesn't end with you? Jason rubbed his forehead, looking exhausted. I traced some of the transfers. A portion of the funds didn't go into my account at all. They were rerouted to another name, Emma frowned. Whose name? Jason looked at them both, guilt shadowing his face. Daniel's. Mark's expression twisted in disbelief. That's impossible. Daniel's the one who exposed this. I know, Jason said quietly, but that's exactly why no one would suspect him. I checked the digital signatures. A few of the redirected transactions came from his office IP. It looks like he used my mistake to cover his own tracks. Emma felt her pulse quicken. You're saying Daniel set you up? Jason shook his head. Not completely. I started the transfer, but he saw what I did and piggybacked on it. When I realized the accounts didn't match, I knew he was hiding something. That's why he came to warn you last night. He was protecting himself. Mark leaned back against the wall, stunned. This can't be real. Daniel's been my friend for years, Jason's voice cracked. You told me once you trusted him more than anyone. Maybe he knew that. Emma stepped forward. Do you have proof? Jason nodded toward his laptop. Right there, the logs. I copied everything before I sent my letter. You can see the timestamp. 2 transactions were made hours after I stopped. Both went to a numbered account in Montreal, registered under Daniel's initials. Mark opened the laptop and stared at the screen. His hands shook as he scrolled through the files. There it was, Daniel H. Ward, and a string of account numbers leading to foreign transfers. Emma covered her mouth. Oh my God. Mark's voice was barely audible. He used both of you, Jason's tone softened. I think he planned this for months. He needed someone desperate enough to take the fall. And when I messed up, I handed him the perfect opportunity. Mark's mind reeled. The man who'd sat at his dinner table, who'd warned him so earnestly, had been playing him all along. He looked at Emma, his eyes full of anguish. We need to take this to the firm. Jason stood abruptly. No. If you do that, Daniel will destroy me before I can prove anything. He'll make it look like I'm lying to save myself. Emma shook her head. You can't run from this, Jason. I'm not running, he said. But I need time. If I can find where he hid the final transfer, I can clear Mark's name. Mark closed the laptop. And what if he finds out you're digging into him? Jason gave a small, humorless smile. Then he'll come after me, and you'll know I was right. The words lingered in the air. Emma felt a deep chill creep through her chest. They left the cabin later that afternoon. Jason refused to come with them. If Daniel's as dangerous as I think, you're safer not being seen with me, he said. Give me a few days. I'll contact you when I find something. Emma hugged him tightly before leaving. His body felt frail, defeated. Please don't do anything reckless, she whispered. He gave her a faint smile. I'll be careful. Tell Mark I'm sorry. When they returned home, the house felt colder than before. Mark sat at the dining table, staring at the laptop Jason had given them. "He's telling the truth," he said quietly. "I know those account codes. They're internal. Daniel would have needed authorization to access them." Emma poured 2 cups of tea, her hands trembling. "What are we supposed to do?" Mark's jaw tightened. "I'll confront him. Face to face." "Mark," she said quickly, "what if Jason's right? What if Daniel's dangerous?" He looked at her, eyes weary but determined. "I can't let him ruin our lives." That evening, as darkness fell, Mark sent Daniel a message. "We need to talk. Urgent." He didn't expect a reply so soon. But within minutes, Daniel responded, "I was about to call you. I think we need to clear the air." Mark stared at the message for a long time before typing back, "Come by tomorrow." 8 p.m., Emma felt her chest tighten. "You're really going through with this?" Mark nodded. "It's time to find out the truth." The next evening, the storm returned, heavier than before. The wind howled outside and thunder rolled across the horizon. Emma paced the living room while Mark stood by the fireplace, arms crossed. At exactly 8, a car pulled into the driveway. Headlights swept across the walls before fading. Emma's heart pounded. "He's here." Mark didn't move. "Stay close." A knock sounded, 3 slow, deliberate raps. Mark opened the door. Daniel stood there, raincoat glistening, expression unreadable. "Evening," he said, stepping inside. "Looks like we need to have a serious talk." The tension in his voice made Emma's skin crawl. Mark gestured toward the table. "Then let's talk." Daniel took off his coat and sat down, his calm too measured, his eyes too steady. Before Mark could speak, Daniel said quietly, "I know you went to see Jason." Emma's breath caught. "How?" Daniel gave a faint smile. "Let's just say I've been keeping track of things." Mark froze, every nerve on edge. "Then you already know we found what you did." Daniel's eyes darkened. "Careful, Mark. You're treading on thin ice." The silence that followed was heavy, dangerous. Emma felt the first flicker of real fear. Then Daniel leaned forward, his voice calm but cold. "If you really think you know the truth, I suggest you hear the rest. Before you make a mistake you can't undo." The rain pounded harder against the windows as Daniel's words hung in the air. The fire crackled softly, but its warmth did little to touch the chill running through the room. Mark's jaw clenched. "What do you mean, the rest of the truth?" Daniel leaned back, eyes steady. "You think Jason's the only one who made mistakes?" "He wasn't. But you deserve to understand why this all happened before you destroy what's left." Emma stepped closer to Mark, her pulse quickening. "Then tell us," Daniel sighed. "When the merger started, I found out about the missing funds. At first, I thought someone in accounting messed up. But when I traced the transfers, I saw Jason's signature. I confronted him privately. He was terrified, said he was drowning in debt. He begged me not to tell you." Mark's voice tightened. "So you decided to use it?" Daniel shook his head. "No, I tried to help. I thought if I covered the gap with temporary funds, we could fix it before the audit hit. But when I moved the money, someone above us noticed. They froze the accounts, and everything pointed back to your name, Mark." Emma frowned. "You mean you did move the money?" Daniel nodded. "Yes, but not to steal. To save all of us. I was trying to buy time. Only later did I realize how bad it looked." Mark stared at him, his voice low. "You forged documents, rerouted funds, and then came to my house pretending to warn me?" Daniel's expression softened. "I wasn't pretending. I knew the investigation was expanding. I wanted to explain before the company came after you. If they dig deeper, they'll see your credentials were used from your home." "I was trying to warn you to prepare." Emma shook her head slowly. "You still could have told us everything that night." Daniel looked down. "You wouldn't have believed me. And Jason begged me not to say his name. He said he'd take the blame if it came to that." Mark's anger faltered. "He sent a letter confessing everything." "I know," Daniel said quietly. "It arrived this morning." Emma's voice trembled. "Then what happens now?" Daniel took a slow breath. "I spoke to the firm's compliance director before coming here. They know about Jason's confession, but they also know I was involved. They're willing to settle quietly if both of you cooperate. Mark frowned. Settle? Daniel nodded. Jason will face disciplinary action, but they'll protect you from legal charges. I'm resigning tomorrow. They want this buried, not public. For a long moment, no one spoke. The storm outside began to ease, the thunder fading into the distance. Mark finally sat down, his voice heavy. You should have trusted me, Daniel. Both of you should have. Daniel gave a tired smile. You're right. I should have. He reached into his coat and pulled out a small USB drive, placing it on the table. This has every file, every log. Proof that you didn't authorize a thing. Keep it safe. Emma glanced at Mark, unsure what to say. There was no victory here, only relief wrapped in sorrow. Daniel stood slowly. I'll take the fallout. It's what's left of the right thing to do. As he turned toward the door, Mark spoke softly. Daniel, he paused. I don't hate you, Mark said. But I can't forgive you yet. Daniel nodded. I wouldn't expect you to. He left without another word, the door closing gently behind him. The rain had stopped, leaving only the quiet hum of the clock. Emma sank into a chair. It's over, isn't it? Mark took her hand. I think so, but it's going to take time to feel normal again. She nodded. What about Jason? He'll have to face what he's done, Mark said. But maybe this will finally give him a chance to start over. They sat in silence, the weight of everything slowly settling. Later that night, as Emma walked past the window, she noticed a car parked across the street, headlights off. Engine running, a faint silhouette sat behind the wheel, watching. Her heart skipped. Mark, come here. He joined her at the window, eyes narrowing. But when he opened the door and stepped outside, the car drove off into the fog, disappearing down the road. Emma's voice was barely above a whisper. Do you think it was him? Mark looked out into the darkness. Maybe, or maybe someone else knows more than we think. He shut the door quietly, locking it behind him. The storm had passed, but somehow it didn't feel like the end.